Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes right here, and I am welcoming you into my world of imagination. Thank you for basically, I'm already going a little too far here. I apologize. Usually I wait a bit, right? Just a little bit before going all out. I'm going in way too early. Sorry, folks. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much for clicking the play button on your operating device here to watch and listen, or perhaps both, to me and my raw thoughts for the WWE Raw edition of July 30th, 2018. Look, before we get into it, over the past weekend, today I'm taping this on July 31st. It's already been a couple of days, but it's the first time that I actually have to make a video before the WWE related deaths that happened over the weekend. We had Brian Christopher and Nikolai Volkov both pass away, and on the same day, I believe it was on Sunday, if my memory is correct. Very, very tragic, shocking, especially in the case of Brian Christopher. I'm not going to stretch this out too much because it's already been a couple of days. You know, I know that at this point, going about doing eulogies is might be a little far-fetched. But you know, I will take a moment to say that Brian Christopher, like many people have said, and many other people have said much more eloquently than I have, Brian Christopher had a wonderful run during the Too Cool days. You know, for what the act was ultimately, should have never gotten so over. Should have never been as over as he and Scotty 2 Hotty were able to bring it to those levels. It was amazing, and of course we're full of fond memories of that era and the work that he put in and the entertainment that he created. I remember him, you know, when they tried to anchor the light heavyweight division around him and Taka Michinoku. That was the main feud at the time. Look, and it is such a tragic and heartbreaking loss. There's words fail me to express how devastating and gut-wrenching difficult this kind of death is to deal with. How you can handle this kind of death. And my thoughts and prayers go out to his entire family, King, all his family, friends as well. Just absolutely terrible. I would even, I guess the little editorial that I would add to this, that the police who had him in custody have some explaining to do, because this is absurd and it's distressing. And thoughts and prayers, rest in peace, Brian Christopher. Nikolai Volkov, well, he had a very long life, great career in wrestling, probably, you know, the penultimate foreign heel, the template, one would argue, that everyone has copied since then, and not even should. People have tried to be Nikolai Volkov, and some have succeeded. Some a few brought it a little further, but many failed. And this is how I have a memory of Nikolai Volkov, and I posted it on Twitter. But in case you hadn't seen it, in 1985 I was a tot. I was a young lad. I was about maybe 10, 11 years old at the time, and I had ring seats to a WWF event back then in my town, and Volkov was entering the ring. He was coming down the aisle. He had a match with Ivan Putski that evening, and I was at ringside, just like right around the ring steps, close, you know, where that corner is, and I scream out to him and I say, "Hey, Volkov, I'm not going to chant USA, USA." And he stops as he's going into the ring. He's on the ring steps and he stops and he has the flag on his shoulder, and he turns around at me and he gives me one of these. He goes, and he says, "Canada's not so bad." He just walks back into the ring. Rest in peace, Mr. Volkov. Lots of fond memories in my formative wrestling years. Man, what a weird weekend. Yeah, yesterday I wasn't around much. I caught up on Raw today. That's why maybe the review is coming out a little later than it usually does. I caught up on Raw today, because yesterday I went to the zoo. I went to one of these zoos with my family, with little Hayes, my fiance, my older son as well. We all went to the zoo. One of these zoos that has, an area where you can actually drive your car through not through the animals, but through. Because wouldn't call it a zoo. But one of these areas where you can drive amongst the animals who are out there, like as if you were on safari, right? So, and the animals then come up to your car, and you can feed them, prepared food for them. You can just hand it over, and they come to the windows, and it's really cool. I'm a fan of zoos. I love zoos. I love animals. I've said this on Twitter a couple of times. I'm an amateur conservationist. My backyard is equipped to make life as simple and easy as possible for the local wildlife in my neighborhood, so that birds, squirrels, any type of animal living around here can thrive, can adapt to our human habitat. So I'm very privy. I like zoos. I enjoy going to zoos. It's a lot of fun. Yesterday, I saw the biggest damn camel I have ever seen in my entire life. And I'm going to put up a picture right now. Take a look at this. Look at that damn camel. How big is that camel? I have never seen a camel that big. That was a military truck. They do these rides. You can, instead, if you don't want to use your car and risk damage to your vehicle, you can pay an extra $10 a person and go in these trucks where they take you around, and it's basically a guided tour in these big old military trucks. Look, the camel's head went up onto that second story. And we were right behind the camel. So then the truck moves on, and then the camel comes to our car, and it lowers its head like right into the window. And the head is huge, and little Hayes is in the back, and she's laughing, just giving it food, and the camel just gives her a big slurp of the tongue, and she's screaming, she's laughing, just like, this is the greatest day of my life. That was amazing. I didn't know camels could get that big. That was some intimidating shit right there. That was nuts. I love zoos, is the takeaway from this segment. By the way, if you're, and just before we actually get into the nitty gritty, as you know, I like to discuss my my God of War prowess, being one of the top God of War players in the world right now, since I'm taking out Valkyries right and left. Look, folks, I took out all of the Valkyries, all 8 of them. Took them all out, even the one that's in Niflheim, which is a level where you have like this poison mist that sucks away at your air, and that can poison you. So on top of having to fight a Valkyrie, which are consistently some of the hardest battles of the game, you have to do it fast enough so that your lungs don't get poisoned. So you have a meter at top that slowly goes back down the longer you take to fight. So maybe the Valkyrie won't get you, maybe the poison will get you. Ah! And I even got her. That's how great, that's how fantastic a God of War player I am. So now all I have to do is go put the helmets back at the Council of Valkyries and fight the Valkyrie Queen. No sweat. Coming from the greatest God of War player of all in the world, maybe not of all time, but right now, currently, that is me, until someone proves me wrong. I see no problems, no upcoming issues fighting the Valkyrie Queen. check me out, boys and girls. Someone's about to get wrecked. Programming notes. I've got a couple of those. Today is Wednesday, like I said, Wednesday, July 31st, the last day of the month of July. It's already going to be August, man. Where did the summer go? I'm okay. I'm not really sad. I hate it when it's too hot. So today, Raw review. Tomorrow, which will be August 1st, I'm going to be, as usual, putting out my SmackDown Live review in the evening. After that, straight after NXT, I will be doing my live 205 Live NXT combination recap review over on FightfulSelect.com. Now, if you're sitting there, what is FightfulSelect.com? Well, that's very simple. It is the subscription service for the website called Fightful.com, which I'm sure you've heard of, especially if you follow me. Great combat sports news, pro wrestling, boxing, MMA, all there. Go check it out. On top of the news that you get there, all the great free things that are easily accessible right there, you can subscribe to the premium service where you get more content, not content not gated content, not like the news is never gated, but extra content, such as podcasts. You get a whole bunch of podcasts. You get the Weekender podcast, where Sean Ross wraps up a lot of goings on, a lot of programming from the wrestling week, such as Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor. Even talks about being the elite. All there. You get other members only podcasts. You get Q&A sessions. You get my reviews, my weekly 205 Live NXT reviews. And we also do retro review. Sean and we do retro PPV pay-per-view. PPV sounds stupid. It's easy. It's shorthand. It looks good when you shorthand it when you write it, but when you say it, PPV, it doesn't sound right. I really have to stop doing that. So Sean and I recently taped 2 retro reviews. We did SummerSlam 1992. Sean was telling me that next week SummerSlam 1992 is going to be released. And then a couple of weeks after that, we're going to be releasing TNA Unbreakable, which was spectacular. It was the first time I saw the entire pay-per-view. That was really, really cool. And not only is that going, and if the rumor and innuendo is true, the Unbreakable, the TNA Unbreakable retro review will be available free for everyone to get a taste of. FightfulSelect.com. You get all this content. You get dark match commentary. Hey, during the G1, I even do a weekly recap of the G1. On top of all of that, your entry, you get all of this for $5, and then on the upper tiers, you get even more stuff. Go check it out. FightfulSelect.com. It's through Patreon. So if you have a Patreon account right now, you can just go right in and do the PayPal thing, and that's it. You do that. Join FightfulSelect.com. See more, get more content, get more great content, get more Warren Hayes too. That should actually be the slogan. FightfulSelect.com. Get more Warren Hayes. So I'll also be, yes, on Thursday I'll also have my G1 weekly recap up. And man, the G1 is starting to heat up. All right, let's get into this review of Monday Night Raw from Miami, Florida. We had graphics for Nikolai Volkov and Brian Christopher, a.k.a. Brian Lawler. To begin with, we get a video package recapping Reigns and Lashley from last week, and we get a shot of Brock, who is backstage with Paul Heyman. That leads us to Roman sauntering to the ring. He gives props to Miami. He gives Bobby Lashley respect. I think Bobby Lashley would have been better served not getting a respect nod from... And it's odd, right? Because just 2 weeks ago, Roman Reigns was saying, "I don't respect you, Bob." I guess now that 50-50 booking has reared its head, and thanks to that 50-50 booking, Roman got one up on him because he won the important match out of that 50-50. I guess now he can respect whoever he wants. Anyway, he says he has... I'm already going off on rants here. But he says he says he gives respect to Bobby Lashley, but he has zero respect for Brock. Brock has plenty of time for UFC, but doesn't come back here but doesn't have time for us here in the WWE. So that brings Paul Heyman out. My client has authorized me to congratulate you on your win for the match at SummerSlam. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If that isn't staring into the abyss, I have no idea what that line is otherwise. This has to be so entirely self-referential. Or if not, then the irony is completely lost on the writing team. And if your writing team doesn't grasp the concept of irony, then what the hell are they doing writing? Basically, Paul says, look, this is a prediction. This is not a prediction. It's a spoiler. Brock is going to put the big dog down and become a two-sport champion because he's saying that he's going to retain the Universal Championship and then go fight Cormier for the UFC World title. And Roman then says, just shut up, Paul. We don't care about anything you have to say. Bring out Brock. I think I'm going to talk about this later because I wrote down some notes. I was triggered when he said I don't care. We don't care. But yeah, I think I'll say this for a little later because I'm doing some live revisions here, folks. Live editing. This is the type of quality content you should expect from Warren Hayes. He edits his notes live and on the fly and lets you know what he's switching around. You're never left in the dark with Warren Hayes. FightfulSelect.com. More Warren Hayes. Okay. So basically, Paul says, look, Brock will come out when he's ready and if he feels like it. And then Roman says a bad word again. He says, bitch. This is nothing we haven't seen before. And not only that we haven't seen before, that we haven't seen multiple times before. This is the same dance that they've been doing with Paul and Roman and Brock. It's the same situation over and over again. Anyway, I want to talk about Roman's character, but not now. But I will point out that the reason he says bitch, he says he's going to make Brock Lesnar his bitch, and the reason why I'm not like is because he said it before, and he said it again before that, and it's lost its luster. It's not like, oh, he shouldn't be saying that in the PG era. What do the children think? They'll start using that on the playground. It's not that. It's lost this shock value because he said it before. He said it, and he'll probably say it again before this feud is over. We see Brock, who is backstage, and probably the best thing, he's reading magazines backstage, and he's reading Backwoodsman magazine. Is he a hunter? Does he hunt? Like, he comes across as a guy who'd take a rifle and go out and hunt caribou or grizzlies, but then, like, for sport, yeah, but then Brock seems like the kind of guy that he'd do that, but then he'd treat the kill properly. He'd bring it back, and he'd use up all the parts. He'd bring it to the butchers or something, and have the butcher all fix it, take care of all the fixings, and all the stuff that Brock doesn't want. He'll tell the butcher, look, make whatever you need with that. That's yours. I feel like that's the vibe I get from him. Anyway, so basically Paul says that if tells him, did you hear what Roman Reigns said? And Brock says, I don't watch the show, Paul, you know this. And I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. If your world champion is like most people, most fans are like, look, I don't watch Raw. I'll watch the YouTube clips. I'll watch the replay on Hulu, but no way I'm watching this shit live. Ugh. I don't know if that's, I don't know. Sometimes you just wonder what they're thinking when they're writing this stuff. Anyway, I'm going to talk about, but you see, he's a bad guy, right? Brock is he's a bad guy because he doesn't watch the show that you, the fans, love. Anyway, I'm going to get back on all this stuff at the very end, once we're done with the review. And he breaks Paul Heyman's phone as well. That's another thing that happened. First match of the night is Finn Balor versus Constable Corbin. They have a SummerSlam match coming up. And they had their match at Extreme Rules. Now they have another one here in the interim. So I'm thinking that their match at SummerSlam is going to have stakes, some kind of stakes, or a stipulation at this point. There's going to be something that happened, because why otherwise would you put this match out here for nothing? Because it was just like, okay, well, yeah, they argued because of the Funhouse last week, and now they want to fight. Finn seemed happy about his Funhouse last week. He was all smiles, took a picture of him in it and put it on his Insta Twitter, gram. But he did. So I'm wondering why this wasn't the reason. Why were they fighting? I don't know. I like how at the start of the match, Coach, they're building up, Corbin and Balor, they have a history, blah blah blah, and then Coach just like completely abandons just cuts right in. He says, "Yeah, but what about Brock not watching the show?" Right? He just cuts right in and just like just slices the buildup that they're trying to create for this match that we're seeing here. No, let's bring it back. Let's go back to the days of Monday Nitro, when all they could talk about, was the NWO, regardless of who was in the ring. Let's do that right here. Let's talk about Brock, despite the fact that you have two very talented, high-level competitors in the ring right now. So Coach says, what about Brock not watching the show? And Corey Graves is like, you don't watch the show either, Coach, and you still get paid. Corey Graves, the voice of a generation. This was a fine match, by the way. This was perfectly okay, aside from the fact that it went too long. It just went a little too long. But you can tell that Finn and Corbin work well together. That they have chemistry, and they really work well off of each other. And if they're leading into another match at SummerSlam, then I feel that we didn't get the most out of these two yet. I feel like if the program is for them to have 3 matches and the third match being in SummerSlam, well, logically that could probably be the show stealer. That should be the top of the feud right there. Finn hits a nice missile drop kick early on. He tries to headbutt Baron on 2 top turnbuckles, but Corbin just clotheslines him off the apron and onto the floor. That was really good. Corbin gets a chin lock, right? Semi-rest hold. There was a few of those. That's one of the reasons why I thought it went too long. He did a couple of chin locks during the match. And if you're doing chin locks and you want to go along with this match, but you're doing chin locks, that's counterproductive. That doesn't work. Then just shorten your match. Make it a more compact, flashy experience then, instead of dragging it out with rest holds. But what I did like about this is that he was ragdolling Finn around. It wasn't just holding him there. He was snapping him around, and I liked that. I thought this is what I think the next generation, the next evolution of the rest hold should go for more and more. And it's just hold someone, but then like torque him, snap him around a little, just give it an edge instead of just sitting there. This is like the issue I have with bear hugs. Bear hugs were a legitimate submission hold back in the 70s, even into the 80s. You could buy a bear hug, but not anymore. So when people tried out bear hugs and they're just like standing there, like when Rusev, God bless you, Rusev, I love you. But bear hugs are not, they're not a credible move anymore. Not in the way they're not if you execute them in the traditional sense. But if you're ragdolling your opponent around in your arms, then you stop them and you vice a little more, and then you do it again. Wow! Then I'm like, oh, all right, that's interesting. That's visually cool, and I can buy that this is a savage move. Otherwise, you just have a dude in your arms, or a dudette if it's women's wrestling, or intergender wrestling. Regardless, you know what I mean. Balor slides to the outside after being thrown out by Finn, and then he quickly slides back in and hits a big running lariat. That was a cool spot. Finn hits his typical offense, you know, the stomp, the enziguri, sling blade, Tope con hilo, and it's kind of sad that I'm like, well, you know, Tope con hilo is part of his usual offense. Man, Tope con hilos are special, and they should be special. But I'm like, that's part of his, you know, it's his move set now. Finn reverses, well, it's part of his basic move set, is what I mean. Finn reverses a choke slam into a roll up, which I thought was really cool. Choke slam backbreaker by Corbin, that was nice too. Deep six. No, not a deep six. He hits. No, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. I'm confusing my notes. Finn basically misses the coup de grace, and then Baron gets him up into a deep six and the pin. Then Corbin comes back to beat up on Finn, and this is 50-50 booking coming to the rescue. There's no rescue. 50-50 booking. It sucks because no one gets over when you're just trading wins like that, or unless you do a program where, you know, your two competitors, a la Charlotte and Sasha from 2 years ago already. You know, when they were trading the women's title back then, man, you know, the story, the overall arc of that entire feud was that they're evenly matched. So that's why they're trading wins on top of each other, because both were extraordinary competitors. That was the story. So I don't mind 50-50 booking in that context. But here, anyway, so I'm, you know, obviously at this point, Big Blow Off is going to be at SummerSlam. I'm expecting some kind of stip, some kind of stakes. We'll see what happens. Speaking of stakes, no, not just yet. Speaking of stakes. Oh, I missed my segue. Loser communicator guy on the microphone. Can't do your proper segues. Paul and Kurt Angle are together backstage. Kurt basically tells Paul that you're under contract as well. Brock has to be out there. That's part of his contract, and if you can't get him out there, you're going to be fired because that's part of your contract. So there's contracts. There's layers of contracts on top of contracts. Kurt Angle is on top of this, though. Gotta say, since last week, I like Take Charge Kurt Angle. He's not as wishy-washy or as indecisive as he's been in just a couple of months ago. Whereas, like, you know, I'm losing control. Now we have a Kurt Angle that is taking no crap. Except from Stephanie, because she's the boss. But, you know, he's putting his foot down, and he's calling ultimatums. He's doing things. I like this Kurt Angle. This is what your WWE legend, Olympic gold medal winner should be acting like. This is how he should be acting like. I don't think I want to get into. I put a note here about the evolution, about calling it Stephanie McMahon's announcement again, and because the PR is so blatantly erroneous. Look, I don't think I want to get into it. All I'm going to say is that Triple H is the man who has spearheaded change for women's wrestling in WWE, right? I'm just going to leave with this thought. If the women are in a position that they are, in the position that they are today, it is because of Triple H, who assembled a team of people to train and develop an entire division of women's wrestlers. from NXT right up to main. Stephanie had no hand in this. And this is true. This is fact. Just recently, my boy Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful, I think it was on one of the podcasts on the Listen Your Boy podcast, basically said exactly what we all kind of know. It's just important to be reminded of this. Objectively speaking, no women's wrestlers ever cite Stephanie McMahon as an influence on their career. They'll talk about their trainers. They'll talk about Hunter. Stephanie is never in the equation. It's never like, thank you, Stephanie, for being there. So I'm wondering, is the reason why they're doing this is because WWE is fearful of perhaps some backlash if a man was to come out and make these announcements? Would they be afraid that it might be construed as, well, women would never have these opportunities if it wasn't for men? And I think that's a legitimate concern for them to have on a PR basis. And honestly, I am convinced that there would be legions of people on social media tearing into WWE if this were the opportunity, that if this were the situation. They would perceive Hunter maybe coming out and taking full credit for this as, oh, of course, women can't do anything if men don't let them to. It'd be a slippery slope, right? But I think you could find a better spokesperson, a better figurehead for the WWE's women's evolution than Stephanie McMahon. You have, and again, this is not an original idea. This comes from Sean again, but it's just something that I completely agree with. You have currently a 100% inactive wrestler named Paige, who not arguably, can be considered as part of this nugget, this nugget of women that initiated what we now refer to as the evolution, the revolution, now the evolution, but the women's revolution. She was there. She was the anti-diva. That was her thing. She believed in this so much. She was ready to do so much for this to work and to get over that she injured herself out of the wrestling business as far as an in-ring talent goes. Now she's GM. She can talk. She can present herself extremely well. We've seen it. And in her role as GM, she could be a top-notch spokesperson for this, and because she'd be credible. She would be absolutely credible. And we wouldn't have to book it as Paige's announcement. We could just say Paige had an announcement. Women's Evolution, we focus on that instead of calling it Stephanie's announcement. Stephanie's announcement. No, yeah. PR is using the opportunity to, the WWE PR is using the opportunity to put Stephanie over because she's a McMahon, let's be honest. They're just using, I honestly think, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I really think that their logic is that it's preferable for a woman to make the women's announcements, these big, to announce these big opportunities that are being created. And on that front, I agree. But I don't think that Stephanie McMahon is the woman to be put in that position. There are other ladies out there that are much more credible to be doing that role. Why don't you get Trish? Give Trish a few working dates, working as in on-air talent, just to get this work. Let her be the ambassador, the spokesperson for this. Trish is arguably involved in this as well, many years before what we call the revolution, what the spark that was the revolution started. Just a thought. Backstage, Alexa Bliss and Alicia Fox are together, and Alexa says she handpicked Fox and puts her over as one of the trailblazers of the women's division. Let me start that again. Backstage, there's a segment with Alexa Bliss and Alicia Fox. Alexa says she handpicked Alicia Fox to fight against Natalya tonight because she is one of the trailblazers. She puts her over as one of the trailblazers of the women's division, rightfully so. I'm glad to see that Alicia's keeping the crazy gimmick, which I think she does really, really well. So we have Natalya versus Alicia Fox. Ronda Rousey is back from suspension as well, so she's at ringside, and Alexa is accompanying Alicia Fox. Natalya feels uncomfortable in her babyface persona. I don't know what, and not that long ago, last year, I was saying, man, Natalya as a heel isn't doing it for me. She seems like too nice a person. She seems like she's, I think she'd be more comfortable as a babyface, but this babyface persona, man, is not working for her. I feel she feels it doesn't feel natural to her. Anyway, I'm glad that Alicia's back in the ring. She hits a split-legged sunset flip off the top rope. She uses the ring skirt to smother Natalya and get some shots in. Airborne abdominal stretch. She pulls that off. That was nice. Natalya does her little set of moves where she does the stomp over with the basement drop kick, followed by her discus lariat, which is always a thing of beauty. Fox hits a really nice Northern Lights suplex right into a bridge. The end comes when Fox provokes Ronda Rousey. She jumps up on the apron, distracts the ref so that Alexa Bliss can get a cheap shot in on Natalya, and there you have it. Alicia Fox wins a match on Monday Night Raw. That makes me happy. But Ronda doesn't like it. Takes off her leather coat, and she goes after Bliss. Tries to put on the armbar. Fox comes in to do the same, and then Ronda does this snap spinning Samoan slam thing that is, I mean, look, I think that what Ronda tells the girls, the ladies, the women, that she or at least maybe the women tell her, like, look, put me up there. I'm just make sure that I'm okay. I'm just along for the ride. You just make it happen, because that move is sick. It looks devastating every time. Every time. Kind of makes you wonder if that shouldn't be her finisher. Like her legit, I think they're positioning it as a transitional move, but man, the way she snaps it, hard. That looks hard. So Ronda goes after Bliss, who tries to flee into the audience, but Fox puts a beating on Ronda Rousey, which brings us backstage where Ronda is requesting a match. She's with Kurt Angle and Natalya, and she's asking Kurt for a match. She requests a match, and Angle says, "Fine, look, I'll give you Alicia Fox next week. Your first match on Monday Night Raw." There you go. I am completely fine with that. I think it's a great pairing. And you know what? I'm really, really glad, even though she'll probably lose, I'm really glad Alicia Fox is getting the win. The match. I think she couldn't actually work well with Ronda. I think they're going to have a short match, but I think it's going to be just explosive enough. It's going to be good. It's going to be really, really, really good. We get more shenanigans with Paul and Brock backstage. Now Paul is trying, he doesn't want to outright tell Brock, that if you don't go out, I'm going to be fired, so he's trying to smooth talk Brock into going out into the ring, because Brock is still not watching the show, right? So he doesn't know that Paul's about to be fired. But Brock starts saying, you're starting to get under my skin. Why don't you go get me a steak? Medium well. Medium well. I take back what I was saying before about him being a hunter and taking care of the meat properly. Brock Lesnar eats his steaks medium well. What? No. That I have trouble believing that. That's a heel move. Eating your steaks medium well. Next thing he'll tell us, he lathers them in ketchup. Elias is in the ring. And he's playing. He puts over his album. Says he could have gone higher on the charts had he not been interrupted by Bobby Lashley. Now, the thing is that he was interrupted by, it feels like, the entire Raw locker room. Why is he picking on Bobby Lashley? He talks about, he puts down Miami. He says, this town worships garbage musicians like Pitbull. I fail to see how this is a heel commentary. I would have popped. He calls The Rock a piece of garbage or something. And I'm, there's been rumors recently that Rocky Maivia, Dwayne Johnson, wants to work a few more dates for WWE. Did we just see like a seed being planted, perhaps? It would actually be a really good fit. Rock and Elias would be a really, really good fit. There's not a lot of guys on the roster right now who could take a Rock verbal beating and still come out of it unscathed. Elias would be one of them. So basically, Lashley comes out. He says, I heard you talk about me backstage, so I figured I'd come out here and have a front seat to what you have to say. And Elias said, whoa, no, I know you're not here to walk out here to walk with Elias. You're here to sing with Elias. Lashley's like, no. I don't want to sing. And I'm like, no. I don't want Lashley to sing either. He says, look, I'm going to keep it slow and simple. He said, so basically, he gets the crowd in. Who wants to have Lashley sing with me? And the crowd obviously pops for it because they're marks. As opposed to what I am. Pot calling the kettle black there, Warren. Elias, he's basically trapping Lashley into singing with him. So he says, I'm going to keep it slow and simple, just like you. So you can follow. Elias, last week, his line about buying 2 albums, one for yourself and one for the person you'll become after listening to my album. And then this line here, he's nailing these one-liners. That's really, really good. So he starts a rendition of Rockin' Robin, and Elias joins in. He's not very good, but he can keep up, I guess. And then Elias attacks him. And that's it. Now, what I don't understand here, and this bothers me, we're back to smiling Bobby Lashley here. Who comes out and is like, hey, why didn't he just come out and say, why did he come out and say, look, I heard, I want a front seat to all of this. Why wasn't he more wasn't he any more confronting demeanor towards Elias? Like, you talking smack about me. What, something you want to say to my face? And then, but Lashley is all like loosey-goosey, happy, smiley, and he's back to being that smiley guy that Sami Zayn, during his feud with Sami Zayn, where Sami was doing all these disrespectful things and everything was just, he was taking it with a smile, a grain of salt. Now here's like, all right, I'll sing, And just not that long ago, we were getting the Bobby Lashley and his feud with Reigns that we were like, yes, show us this. This is the fire, the flame that we want. This is what we want from you, Bobby. We want you to look a son of a bitch in the eyes and just like, what are you saying about me? Those big old, round, intense Bobby Lashley stares, eyes and stares, and just bore right into your brain. But no, now we're back to, oh, okay, cool. No problem. Yeah, I'll sing. Ha, ha, ha. And then you get sucker punched because you're an idiot. Why weren't you an idiot against Roman Reigns? But this is the problem that we have with all baby faces on Raw right now. All your major baby faces don't have any spark. They don't have flame. They never get mad. Finn never gets mad. Bobby Lashley, during his entire feud with Sammy, barely got angry. He did get angry, or at least intense, with Roman. And Roman as well. I'm going to get back to Roman later, but just to prove this point here, Roman doesn't get excited. He's like, I don't care. Nothing and there's no fire to any of these guys. And when Braun is at his best, is when he's taking no crap from anyone. And that's why we like him, because he never settles for what's happening. He takes matters into his own hands. It's really frustrating. Now they're going down this road again with Bobby Lashley. I don't get it. Bobby Lashley, no, not Bobby Lashley. KO. Kevin Owens. He runs into Baron Corbin backstage. He offers him a towel, and hey, it's a great match, Baron. Good job. And Baron's like, no, thanks. I've already cooled down, which is cool. And KO tells Baron Corbin that since he's his new favorite wrestler, he's his kid's new favorite wrestler, and he likes you so much, he dresses up in a shirt and a vest, and he runs around the house. And it's really good. And Baron's like, oh, well, that's what I live to do. I live to inspire. Owens is so good. He's so good. Why can't we get more Kevin Owens on the show? Kevin Owens is afraid Braun may cash in tonight, which we all kind of expect, really. That we're all like, not that we expect, but we're all like, we're all kind of wondering why Braun hasn't done it yet. But KO's concern is that it will mess up his match at SummerSlam, and basically Baron Corbin says, look, Brock isn't my department, that's Kurt's problem. It's above my pay grade. Then we get Braun Strowman and Jinder Mahal in the ring. Jinder is trying to get Braun to do a shanty, but Braun overpowers him. Quickly, Kevin Owens sneaks in at ringside and grabs the briefcase. He tries to make off with it, but Braun gives chase, so he tosses the briefcase to Sunil Singh on the outside, and Braun just mows him over, does one of those shoulder block things, and grabs the briefcase and keeps running after KO, and then they run all the way backstage. Meanwhile, the ref is counting down, doing the 10 count, and Jinder wins. Jinder wins against Braun Strowman by countout. I have trouble understanding what this does. A win for Jinder. Okay. Jinder Mahal, after all, was your WWE champion for the better part of 2017. So it's important that he continues to score wins because he's a former champion. Does it show off that Braun can lose this way at SummerSlam, that he can lose by countout? And if that happens, it gives the commentary team an opportunity to remind us that if he loses like that, he'll lose the Money in the Bank briefcase to Kevin Owens? Sure. Okay. It does that as well. What else does it do, though? Personally, it makes me wonder why the hell Braun Strowman just doesn't get rid of the briefcase and cash it in on Brock Lesnar, who is there right then and there on location right now. Wouldn't that this is the main issue that we've had with Braun winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, is that Braun should have cashed in the very next night. because he's a babyface, first and foremost. But second of all, because Braun Strowman he's impulsive. He lives off his gut, of his instinct. I've pondered before, not on these videos, but in articles I've wrote over on the Daily DDT, or on the Fan-Sided Network, that Braun Strowman is a child. He is the equivalent of a young toddler who wants to get whatever he wants right now. And he doesn't have a parent to try and to show him good manners. Please, thank you, wait your turn. No, that's not Braun. That is not Braun Strowman. The Braun Strowman that we know and that we ended up falling in love with, WWE, is the Braun Strowman who tears shit up when things don't go his way. Who does not ask, demands. So why isn't Braun Strowman cashing in with Brock Lesnar in the same building as him right then and there? It doesn't make sense. It goes against Braun's character, what we've come to expect of Braun's character. It doesn't connect. They could work a storyline around this and somehow maybe even bring it back to Roman, right? They could have Braun come out to the ring, grab a mic. Brock Lesnar, you're backstage. I'm cashing in right now. Paul Heyman comes out and says, look, buddy, we can't do this. He has a title defense signed against Roman Reigns. So what happens then? Roman Reigns, not Roman Reigns, but Brock decides to tear the building up because he's not getting what he wants. Then you can have Roman come out and say, look, brother, after SummerSlam, I'll give you the first title shot if you want to cash in on me whenever you want. Brother, it's yours. And he gets mad, but he accepts it, right? That's the only way to cool him down. He accepts this reality and he's like, fine, if I get the first title defense, you're mine, Roman Reigns. That could have been an interesting way to just bring this full circle. But then you have Kevin Owens in the back who comes out and says, whoa, 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 don't forget about me, you morons, because that briefcase is on the line at SummerSlam, so I might be cashing in. Just tying everything together, like everything has a reason. Instead, we're insisting on getting the hard sell that Brock Lesnar is a mean old guy. I don't understand. I don't understand how. I don't get it. I don't understand how I don't understand how Braun is still walking around with the briefcase. It doesn't make sense. We're not at prediction time yet for SummerSlam pay-per-view. But I honestly believe that the briefcase would be better served with Kevin Owens. They should have never given it to Braun. Never. There was no point in giving it to Braun. Braun did not need it. Braun should not have to carry it, unless the only reason they should have given it to Braun is for him to cash in the very next night on Raw. Right now, this is poor use of the briefcase. Kurt has a phone call with Stephanie, who asks him to do something to protect the main event. Then after, we have Mojo Rawley calling everyone out in the locker room, and it's Bobby Roode who answers the challenge. And I could not care less about anything on Raw right now than Mojo Rawley feuding with Bobby Roode. We get Apollo Crews versus Akam, the Authors of Pain. What are they doing with the Authors of Pain here? What are they? And I know that as an NXT faithful guy here, I try to avoid getting into the discussion that main roster don't know what to do with the NXT people. But in this case, they don't know what they're doing. They've missed an incredible opportunity with Authors of Pain, and they are just digging the hole deeper instead of just like scrambling to figure out something new to do with them. They're just gonna let's just keep having Authors of Pain look like a regular tag team. These guys are monsters. They're made to be monsters. If we were to move back a little bit and have me fantasy book this, I wouldn't have Authors of Pain be introduced, like come out with the Titantron and everything. You have Authors of Pain, their first Raw appearance, come out from the audience in their full battle gear, and they interrupt the tag team match. Maybe it's, I don't know, let's say Titus Worldwide versus Slater and Rhino, right? Why not? Or the B team back then. Whatever. It doesn't matter. They come in, they run in, and they destroy these two teams. And then they do that week after week. They interfere in matches, tag team matches. They terrify the tag team division. And then eventually they get their tag shot, and guess what? They win. They win on their first their tag team title shot. Why? Because they're monsters. The Authors of Pain are your target. They're what you aspire to. These are the guys that you chase. The Authors of Pain do not chase you. You chase them, and then they destroy you. That's their gimmick. That's what they do. And if you do anything else than not make them devour their opponents whole, you are doing the gimmick a disservice. And it's not going to work as well. Talking about Sean again, who had another great idea. Sean Rossap over at Fightful.com. But this is a great idea. Pair these guys up with Samoa Joe. Could you imagine? The Authors of Pain and Samoa Joe like a mini trio, a stable, right? And they're just running roughshod all over the WWE. They're just doing whatever they want. And the only way to stop them is to force the Shield to reunite. You have to get the Hounds of Justice back together because we can't control these three guys. At some point, these stories kind of write themselves, and it's not that hard. Sometimes you feel like WWE try to swerve us. They try their best to say, oh, well, this is the obvious route, but we're going to try something else just to surprise you. And part of the fun of wrestling is surprises and being shocked. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. And you're thrilled. But sometimes the path of least resistance, right? Just use the cards that you've been handed, and you can probably pull off something magical. AOP, Sasha and Bailey, so on and so forth. There are lots of examples of this. Man, they are not doing a good job with Authors of Pain. This segment sucked. It wasn't even a match. Why are Authors of Pain losing to a completely 100% non-credible team? Oh, it's just a singles match. The story they're telling is that they're better when they're a tag team. It doesn't matter. If they're monsters, they will devour the opposition. And I hate, it's such a basic, stupid story. It's the only story that WWE can that seem to want to tell when it comes to their tag teams. That is to say, oh, well, the tag teams work really well, they work really well together, but when you separate them, then they become jabronis. They'll just lose matches. They tell this story everywhere, all the time, and it's not necessarily the case. Better stories, more stories, different stories. And in this case, it could be that the authors of, especially against Titus Worldwide, and this is not taking anything away from the talent of Apollo Crews. I love Apollo Crews. This is not against Him specifically, it's the way he's been booked. He's been booked as a loser. He's been booked as a jobber to the stars. Why is he picking up wins on a team that should be dominant, that should be crushing the opposition, singles or not? Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. Look, straight-haired Dolph is hilariously awesome, isn't it? Match starts and the crowd is already chanting "Burn it down." You tell me. You tell me if the audience doesn't like Seth Rollins. Drew does a really nice carry into a suplex at some point. Seth hits the double dives on Drew. Drew does a catapult into the exposed steel under the ring, which was really nice. Seth hits like a looks like a tornado. He looks like he's doing a tornado DDT on like swinging around Drew, but it's not a DDT that he ends up pulling off. It's a Falcon Arrow, guys. That was really cool. Drew hits a big ass spine buster too. Seth reverses a power bomb into a Rana, which I thought was sick. Seth starts doing these kicks and super kicks on Drew, and Drew no sells one, and then he's like very New Japan like, it's like, come on, give me more. All right, and Seth just delivers another one and takes him down. Drew does a white noise from the top rope, which was bananas. That's like a super white noise. That was cool. He tries to do his reverse Alabama Slam thing, but nicely reversed into a small package by Seth for 2. Stomp by Seth for the win, but Dolph interferes before that happens, so forces the DQ. Seth fights off Dolph's beatdown. He stands tall in the ring as your winner. That was a good match. That was a good, solid match for the time. Like, this is actually, you know what? This is the amount of time that they should have allotted Finn and Baron right here. I think that's where they could have got the maximum out of this match here. Just a fine match. Very, very good. Advances the stories. Everyone looks great. Everyone looks great. Drew looks great. Seth looks great. Great, great, great. Kurt's backstage with Roman Reigns. There's a situation. He says, Stephanie has asked you to be removed from the building so that Brock can go to the ring. And then Roman says, well, I don't care what Stephanie said, and then he starts to say, Kurt, you're the leader here, you're the boss, but you're just a yes man, blah blah blah. But again, Roman says, I don't care. And I think it's his new catchphrase. When does Roman care? When will Roman care? I don't know when Roman cares. I have heard Roman say, I don't care, so much over the past few months that I really do wonder what is going to get this guy to light a fire. What's it going to take to light a fire for this guy? The issue with Roman is his character. The issue with Roman is his character. Nothing sticks to this guy. I think what his character is supposed to portray is confidence in his abilities. It's supposed to show that he's strong, focused, and does not deviate from his objective. But when he feuds with Bobby Lashley and he says, I don't care what Bobby thinks about me, I just want to fight him. When he enters the ring when he entered the ring last week and he says, at the start when Kurt was setting up the tournament, that was 2 weeks ago, come to think of it, when he was setting up the tournament to determine the #1 contender at SummerSlam, and he comes into the ring and he says, I don't care. I don't care about the title. I just want to fight. And he said, I don't care about Stephanie. And at first, he says, I don't care what Stephanie has to say. And then at first he says, well, Paul Heyman's cutting the promo and he says, I don't care what you have to say, Paul. He doesn't care about anything. What does he care about? This is what we're missing from Roman Reigns. We are missing the spark. We're missing the ignition. The thing that will make him fire up and that we will get behind. The baby faces on Raw. I've said it just previously. I'll say it again. They're all complacent. They either smile or everything just rolls off their back. Nothing gets to them. Roman is the prime example of this. Nothing gets to Roman. So you wonder what animates him. Now at this point, it wouldn't be that hard to book. At this point, if he's the #1 contender and he's still talking about Brock not showing up on Raw or not caring about WWE, instead of just very coolly delivering a promo, he should actually be the voice of reason here and say, look, we've said this before. I've said this to you guys before. Brock doesn't care, and I am sick of this. I am sick of all of us being jerked around, and he should get mad. Mad in the ring, not just say, I told you guys, look again, this is where we are again. We know this is we're here again. What are you going to do to settle this? Well, I'm gonna beat him at SummerSlam. No, Roman, I don't believe you. I don't believe you, Roman, because you haven't beat him every single time you fought Brock Lesnar. I don't think you're going to beat him because I don't think you care. Because every situation and problem that's presented to you doesn't seem to make you care. Steve Austin, Stone Cold, back in the day, cared. He cared about everything. And he got mad when things didn't go his way. Think about Stone Cold Steve Austin and right now with Brock Lesnar. Let's say he was in this situation here. He wouldn't be in the ring saying, I don't care what he does. He doesn't show up. He wouldn't be cutting a very cool promo. He'd be fired up. He'd be saying, that big dumb son of a bitch better come out here or I'm going to get after him. And then he'd probably go after him. And it'd probably end with a brawl. And wouldn't that be something interesting? And we'd be fired up about this feud because Austin is fed up and he doesn't want to take it anymore. That's exactly what he'd do. The Rock would do the same thing. If you were a babyface, of course. But he'd do the same thing. Roman doesn't fire anyone up. He doesn't ignite passion. He doesn't transmit his passion well. He's being told by creative, look, Roman, cool, calm, reasonable Roman, but we don't want, especially at this point in the Universal title history, where it has been kept by Brock Lesnar for so long and has been kept off TV and poorly defended and an afterthought. We don't want reason. We don't want reasonable things. We want someone to take charge and get rid of it. Do you think Steve Austin would have allowed himself to be so easily escorted out of the building by security? Come on. And that's why a guy like Austin got over, because he wasn't taking any crap from anyone. There's no fire to Roman Reigns. It's just that simple. That's the main problem with his character. And he says it himself. I don't care. Kind of makes it difficult for me to care as well, Roman, if you don't care. I'd just like to point out as well that when security escorted, because when security escorted Roman out of the room, out of the little room that they were holding this promo, he slapped the taste out of Baron Corbin. So I'm just wondering what the repercussions of that are going to be. Probably just be a match. The B team. There's an interview, an interview in the ring with Charlie Caruso. Bo Dallas calls her Charles, which is funny. Says they're living a dream, but they can beat any team. And then suddenly Matt and Bray, the Deleters of Worlds, teleport to the ring. Matt Hardy says your success is a cosmic anomaly, and they're going to fix that. They say they will haunt the B team until they are deleted. But the Revival come out. The Revival say, how are these 4 delusional buffoons still on top of the tag division? This doesn't make sense. Hey, welcome to the club. So basically, this ends up creating a match between the Revival and the Leaders of Worlds, which wasn't much of a match, but saw the Revival hit the Shatter Machine for the win. So are we slowly starting to see a new #1 contender for the B team's titles? By the way, the B team were on commentary, and I thought they were really good. They were really funny. It works. I mean, their thing works. Maybe we'll get an ultimate deletion type situation with all 3 of these teams, and I feel the Revival would work well in this in this environment nonetheless. I think I would have preferred just the B team and the Deleters of Worlds to sort of finish up their feud. But if they want to add the Revival in there, that'd be great. Seth is backstage. Renee Young is interviewing him, and he says it's frustrating to deal with 2 guys. 2 guys at once, but he'll stop at nothing to get his title back, and then he gets jumped by Dolph and Drew again. Now, if this isn't the most ham-fisted way to foreshadow the return of Dean Ambrose, I don't know what is. Like, he's right now, look, this part of the story that we're underscoring here. Fighting 2 guys is difficult. I think I might need help, but I'm not going to ask for help. Look, at this point, it seems. And Renee Young interviewing him about having to fight off 2 guys. Don't you find it hard, Seth, to fight off 2 guys all the time? Come on. All the signs are there. Dean's coming back at SummerSlam. You kidding me? You kidding me? The Riot Squad fight against Sasha and Bayley. Sasha and Bayley have matching gear now, and they call themselves the Boss and Hug Connection. So the highly rumored women's tag team titles have not been announced yet, but oh la la, they are certainly establishing these 2 as a legitimate tag team, aren't they? I guess they are really friends again. Sasha hits a Meteora that Cole calls a Thez press, but Corey calls him out on it. A whole bunch of Meteoras on Logan. She Meteoras Logan into the post. Oh, and then Sasha does a top rope Meteora onto Liv. Sasha looked good in this match. Liv does a chin lock where she actually ragdolls. Was it Sasha? Yeah, it was Sasha, because Sasha was babyface in peril for most of the match. So see, you can do the chin locks and ragdoll a bit, and it looks good. Why wouldn't you do that? That's fantastic. Bayley hits a nice top rope Frankensteiner, and then Sasha immediately comes in with a super Meteora and backstabber into a Bayley to belly for the pin. Not bad as far as finishers go. I think it's cool. It doesn't feel, like a forced, we absolutely have to do a tag team finisher. No, I like this. 2 signature moves, meld it together. It works. I still think Sasha and Bailey should be feuding. I really think there's more money. It's a money feud in this. But anyway, it's all right. We move on to our main event segment. Brock here said, just before, there's a thing backstage where Paul basically comes clean and says, "Look, if you don't go out there, I'm going to be fired. If you're not going to do it for the fans or WWE, at least do it for me." And Brock basically tells him, "You're not my friend. You've been mooching off me for all these years." And Brock is a mean guy, guys. He hates everyone. So our main event tonight is a segment. 2 shows in a row that finished with a segment, with an interview as your main event. It happened last Tuesday on SmackDown. Happens again on Raw tonight. Are we back in the Attitude Era, folks? Paul basically comes to the ring. Paul Heyman comes to the ring, and he starts doing his "my name is Paul Heyman" thing, but he's dejected. He does this spiel half-heartedly. Miami starts chanting "na na na na" to him. He says Brock's not coming out, and Kurt is super mad, which is good. And then he starts saying, what he expects a WWE champion to do. He says he's the worst Universal Champion of all time. In all the 2 years existence of the belt, he's the worst. Paul argues that he's trying to rehabilitate him. And this, honestly, sniveling Paul Heyman is so good. And this was refreshing because Paul is such a good heel. He works so well. He's in a position of confidence and strength because Brock is undefeated and all that. But now that he doesn't have any recourse, and Brock apparently doesn't like him anymore, now he feels, I've got nowhere to go. I'm about to lose my job. He says, "Kurt, I'm trying to rehabilitate him. I'm on your side. I know he's a terrible champion. I know. I agree." And he tries to rehabilitate. "I'm trying to rehabilitate him. I'm trying to. I tried to mold him in your image, Kurt." Honestly, Paul Heyman like this is gold. So he tries to weasel. He tries to weasel his way into keeping his job. Kurt's not having any of it. It's too transparent. He starts begging Kurt to keep his job. And then Brock comes to the ring. He F5s Angle. He menaces Corbin, who hightails it out of there. And then he grabs Paul by the face and he starts crushing him down to the ground. And Paul's like, "I can't breathe, Brock. I can't breathe." And then are we hearing the audience chanting, "We want Roman"? Is that the chant we're hearing right now? Because a lot of people seem to think that the chant is "We want Strowman." Honestly, I think it's "We want Strowman." Mission accomplished, WWE. I think that they were chanting "We want Roman" because if you listen again to if you listen back to the moment where people are chanting "We want Roman," there's a counter "Roman sucks" chant. "We want Roman," and there's a "Roman sucks." So it's not "We want Strowman." They're chanting, quite unfortunately. Don't worry about it, guys. So Brock doesn't like you guys. He doesn't like anyone. He's such a meathead. He came to the show and he didn't even want to go out because he doesn't even watch the show because he's better than you all, right? He's a mean guy. He doesn't care about the WWE universe. He doesn't care about Paul Heyman. Doesn't care about Kurt Angle. Raw tonight was brought to you by "We don't like Brock Lesnar and you shouldn't like him either." Man, you know what a hard sell is, folks? Sometimes I talk about the hard sell. In advertising, a hard sell is, I'll read the definition here that I pulled off of Wikipedia, which is a website that contains information. You should check that out. In advertising, a hard sell is an advertisement or campaign that uses a more direct, forceful, and overt sales message. Well, here, folks, This was the Brock Lesnar is a heel hard sell. And it was heavy-handed. If this was a cake, the icing would be layered way too much on it, and you would have very little cake. If you're not buying into Brock Lesnar being the WWE, being, not that, well, yeah, let me start over. If you're not buying into Brock Lesnar being a heel at this point, and you haven't been paying attention, or you just don't care, or you get what WWE is doing, and you're like, no, you're kind of insulting my intelligence at this point. I get it. He's not a good guy because he wants to go to UFC, and he's being disrespectful to we WWE fans. I think after that, the only thing that was left for them to do on this hard sell would have him kick puppies. I think that's all that was left for them to do, to make sure that we understood that he's not a cool guy. Man, I am personally, I'm really done with this. I've been done with this whole universal title situation and the unnecessary anointment of Roman Reigns as your hero and champion and leader, because this anointment has happened 2 times in the past. We're just going to go for a 3rd time here. At this point, I don't even care who ends up with the Universal title. I just want this whole storyline to be done with. And I do want the Universal title back on Raw. I want it to show up. I want to have a champion who will defend it. I want to see wrestlers vie for it in competitive matches that that we understand or know the outcome of because of some self-serving prophecy that it's this one guy who has to beat this other guy, otherwise it won't happen. And I'm sure that the WWE fans are all in the same position at this point. It's like, we don't, just get it off, Brock. Just get it off, Brock. And it distracts us from this whole story. Just distracts us from the product, from wanting to move forward, from actually thinking about interesting matches. Because maybe Roman won't be your favorite choice as Universal Champion, but then imagine the matches that we can have afterwards with Roman. We can actually have matches to begin with. We can have him show up. We can actually have him feud. There's another thing. Now, Roman is probably going to have to carry this feud all by himself. Do we know how many appearances Brock is supposed to make on Raw leading up? Probably not that much, which is probably one of the reasons why they had Roman punch Baron Corbin in the face this week, so that they could set up a match for Roman next week to sort of keep talking about the feud and make this his feud. This is the most convoluted logic ever. But they probably needed to put this match in here next week so that they could keep the feud with Brock going by having punching Corbin, so that it has a link to the Brock feud. So because Roman punched Corbin because of Brock's presence that had Stephanie McMahon force Roman out of the building, and Roman was mad. So this sort of keeps the feud alive. I think we're going to wrap this up. This was an okay edition of Raw. We've had worse, but we've had better. That's my overall expectation of it. Not expectation, but wrap up. And man, we are done with Brock Lesnar. He could be a babyface at this point, and it doesn't matter. Just want the Universal title on Roman so we can stop talking about it, so we can all move on. thank you for staying to the very end of this particularly long episode, this long review. And I was like, hey, man, you know, I'm going to keep it shorter this week. But no, I did not keep it shorter. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. And as usual, follow me on YouTube. You can subscribe. You can do the like thing on the video. You can do the bell thing. Do it all. You know how this works. You don't have me to tell you. And if you don't know where to find me on YouTube, just go to tinyurl.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. It's right there on the Warren board. Just right there. You can check that out. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Warren Hayes as well. Guys, thank you very much for hanging out with me all this time. I feel exhausted, and I'll see you next time.